Hi, I'm Heather Souliere, and I am an illustrator and urban sketcher. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I mix my ink washes to go from a fine line drawing to an ink illustration. So on the table, I have my sketchbook, my paintbrush, the ink that I like to use, which is Speedball Super Black India ink, some paper towels, and 3 random jars, can be any kind of jar, filled with a little bit of water. You don't want to fill them too much, otherwise you're going to waste a lot of ink. To get started, I always start off with my lightest ink wash first. So the first thing I do is I get just a little bit of ink on my brush, and I'll mix that with the water in the first jar. When mixing my ink washes, I always work from lightest to darkest, with the lightest one being closest to me. That consistency prevents me from applying way too dark of an ink wash on what I'm doing. So now that I've mixed a little bit of ink with the water, I'm going to test it out. So what I'm looking for in my lightest ink wash is a value that is pretty light. I don't want something that's too dark. I'm looking for something that I can apply it, but it's barely noticeable. So what I've mixed so far is actually a little too dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal a little bit of water from one of my jars and just add it in. Now I also always keep an extra jar of water nearby just in case I make my washes a little too dark. Or if it's the lightest ink wash, I'll just steal from one of the other jars. There, that's pretty perfect. That's pretty much the value that I'm looking for, where when you apply it with a wet brush, it's very light. So next is the medium ink wash. I'm gonna start it the same way I did last time. That's actually a better light wash than the one that I've mixed. So I'm just going to swap them and add a bit more ink to the second one. Now what I'm looking for is a value that's darker than the first, but not so dark that it's pretty black. I'm just going to keep adding more ink until it's the right value. I'm starting to get closer, but it's not quite as dark as I'd like it. There, that's pretty much what I'm looking for in my medium wash. It's quite darker than the first, but it's definitely nowhere near black. Now it's time to mix the dark wash. Sometimes you need quite a bit of ink for this one. As you can see, I've added quite a bit of ink already, but it's still not quite dark enough. Okay, still getting darker, but still have a little bit of ways to go. If you want to save money on ink, you may want to use smaller jars than these. You really don't need a whole lot for your ink washes. I'm pretty happy with this dark value now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make a little swatch of each of the inks right beside each other, just to make sure that I'm happy with the relationship between each other. Are you ready to put these techniques into practice? Make sure to join me in my online course on urban illustration with inking techniques.